Today, U.S. Senator Ron Johnson doubled down on his comments made earlier this week, equating federal assistance for childcare as indoctrinating children at an even earlier age. Senator Johnson's comments come as a federal subsidy for childcare is being debated in Congress as a portion of President Joe Biden's.
Hi there, can you hear me?
In the same press conference,
got you good.
Excellent, loud and clear. Thank you so much for joining us. We are back in 25 seconds.
Very good.
Thank you. A Nebraska-based voting machine company referred to subpoenas sent to them by Michael Gableman as a part of the Republican-authorized 2020 election review as a, quote, quintessential fishing expedition, end quote. The Nebraska firm stated they will not comply with the subpoenas, seeking a broad array of information. You're listening to Double Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Kicking ass and taking names since the Wisconsin uprising, the Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the Friday edition. Got a fine guest joining me right now live via Zoom. Snuck a poll in on me, did you? Charles Franklin, our good friend Charles Franklin, pollster extraordinaire, Marquette University Law School polling. Charles, welcome back.
Yeah, I tried to sneak it past you, but boy, can't get anything past you.
I got to read the headlines at thehill.com. Charles, you dropped a national poll, and I want to talk about it. Let's jump right in, if you don't mind, sir. First and foremost, electoral politics. You know, I'm a political junkie. I'm always looking at the next elective cycle. So let's put them head to head. Joe Biden versus Donald Trump 2.0. Who's going to win that epic battle, Charles?
In the current polling, as they say, if the election were held today, 33% for Trump, 43% for Biden. But sort of showing the grumpy electorate, 16% would like someone else, and another 6% say they wouldn't vote. Now that election is so far off, the real question we're asking here is, how does Trump compare with other Republicans right now?
Well, Charles, I know that we've seen some terrible polling for Joe Biden. At least it's been reported that way and perceived that way. Do you see this as a strength of Joe Biden or a weakness in Donald Trump?
Oh, I think it's a bit more of a weakness in Donald Trump, and it's also strong partisan voting. When we put Ron DeSantis, the Florida governor, against Biden, he gets the same 33% that Trump does, though Biden's down 2 points to 41% there. So in both of these cases, Biden is leading either of these two Republicans. But it's interesting that DeSantis, who's not very well known, actually, among the broad public outside of Florida, runs at least as well as Trump does against Biden. So part of this is the folks that are unhappy with Biden are really kind of two types of people. One are Republicans who have a very terrible view of Biden and would never vote for him anyway, almost surely. But Biden's also slipped with independents and even Democrats since the summer, down 13 or 14 points with Democrats, down 15 points with independents. So, you know, there's room there for Biden to recover with Democrats, and an open question of whether he can win those independents back to him. But if you match him up with Trump, who's, after all, lost the popular vote twice now, or against DeSantis, a pretty Trumpy-like figure from Florida himself, Biden holds the edge there.
Well, you talk about Ron DeSantis not being well known nationally. Unless you talk to the Fox News audience, he is known to Fox News and Newsmax and OAN and those places where conservatives go to speak to the base. Now, I thought I heard you talking about the Democratic base had eroded some for Joe Biden. How about the Republican base? What is their eagerness for either of these two as possible presidentials? DeSantis, the guy from Florida, or the other guy from Florida, Donald Trump?
Yeah. I think there's actually some kind of interesting news out of that. First of all, Republicans still like Donald Trump a lot. 74% of Republicans are favorable to Trump, but 25% are unfavorable. But despite that 74% favorable, only 63% of Republicans would like to see Trump run again in 2024. Now, that's still a majority, and that still leaves Trump certainly in command of the Republican Party for the time being. But I still think there's some interest there in that gap between 73% or 74% that are favorable to Trump and that dropping down to 63 wanting him to run again. When you look at the comparison, we looked at DeSantis and Trump and Mike Pence, who's also had ambitions to run for president. Among Republicans, 38% of this national poll say they haven't heard enough to have an opinion about DeSantis. So that's where he's not very well known, even with the GOP base. But his favorables are 52, unfavorable just 11. That's a 5-to-1 favorable to unfavorable ratio. With Trump, it's 74-25. That's a 3-to-1 ratio. And with Mike Pence, it's 59-31. Let's call that a 2-to-1 favorable. So DeSantis looks pretty good, except for the fact, among Republicans, I mean, except for the fact that so many don't know him. Now, as that 38% gets familiar with him, will they like him at least as much as those that already know him? If so, that makes him a really major figure in the party, even against Trump. Now, we're getting ahead of ourselves. It's a long way to primaries and all of that. But the question we're trying to monitor here in our polling is what is happening in the post-Trump party? And is the post-Trump party a rerun of Trump? Or is the post-Trump party opening doors for newcomers? Maybe DeSantis, but maybe someone else that we'll start looking at later.
Folks, you are listening to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Got a fine guest. He is Charles Franklin, Marquette University Law School polling. They dropped some new national polling, and we're sort of digging in the numbers. We'll get to the Supreme Court in a minute. One interesting point I did see, 77% of Republicans said what? They'd vote for Trump again, but 6% of Republicans said they'd vote for Joe Biden. And of Democrats, 84% are with Biden, but only 1% said they'd cross the aisle and vote for Trump. So Trump apparently has got more bleed from his base, at least currently, than Biden does amongst those polled.
I think that's right. Now it's 6% versus 1%, but still there is a difference there. I think one of the things that drives our politics these days is, of course, Democrats are incredibly negative towards Donald Trump. And that becomes a strength for Biden or any other Democrat in a race against Trump, hypothetically, in 2024. And that there are some fractures in that Republican base. 6% said they'd vote for Biden among Republicans, but 16% of Republicans said they'd rather vote for someone else than either Biden or Trump. So this is where there's some fractures there. Now, I don't think very many Republicans will cross over and vote for Joe Biden in the end. But some of that 16% that would rather have neither might stay home or might vote for a third party. Biden doesn't suffer that problem among Democrats at this point. But of course, again, we're a long ways off. The main point is the Democratic Party is more united behind Biden against Trump, or for that matter, against DeSantis, than Republicans are united against Biden at this point.
And Charles, did you give me this statistic that my brain swims sometimes with numbers on the radio, but Biden's reelection chances, or at least support amongst his own party, amongst Democrats?
Yeah, among Democrats, it's 84% for Biden against Trump and 82% for Biden against DeSantis. And there is 11% of Democrats that would rather have somebody else versus Trump, and 13% would rather have somebody else against DeSantis. So again, this is that grumpy voter thing. One of the things we've seen is Biden's job approval numbers have fallen off from July, when it was among Democrats, 96% of Democrats approved Biden in July. It's 83% now. So that's down 13 points. But among Black Americans, down from 88% in July to just 57% now. And that's not an outlier. It's dropped from 88 to 74 in September, to 68 in November, to 57 now. And so that's certainly a danger signal for Biden, that a critical part of the Democratic constituency and a critical part of what got him the nomination is pretty disgruntled with him right now. That doesn't mean they're ready to cross over and vote for Trump again, but it does mean there are these fractures in the Democratic base as well.
You know, Charles Franklin, I was unaware that James Clyburn not only endorsed Joe Biden, but strongly encouraged, even came backstage at the presidential debate and told Joe Biden, make the announcement that you want an African-American woman on the Supreme Court, that is a pledge you'll make. And it was a pledge he made from the stage. He earned the endorsement. He won South Carolina handily, and he rolled into Super Tuesday and became the nominee. Now, that was the sort of promise that Joe Biden made to African Americans. And perhaps, do you see it? I saw other Dem strategists, Tad Devine yesterday at the Hill, guy I know, said this could be a reset for Joe Biden. Now, I know you did some Supreme Court polling. First and foremost, the timing of the polling, did it permit you to poll people and have them react to the retirement news of Justice Breyer?
No, we finished the poll on January 21st. We released it at 5 in the morning on Wednesday, and Breyer's retirement was announced 3 hours later. So maybe cause and effect, but we did not have any measurement ahead of time about his retirement. Now, we have asked about him repeatedly, and last summer we asked about wanting him to retire while there was still a Democratic White House and a Democratic majority in the Senate. And the public was pretty negative about timing retirements for political reasons. But when told about the situation, 52%, I think, of Democrats said that he should retire at a time with Democratic control. But, you know, Stephen Breyer is not a household name. In our polling, actually, he's consistently been the least well-known Supreme Court justice. So I don't think his retirement in and of itself is critical, but Biden's nomination to replace him, his renewed pledge yesterday, or whenever it was yesterday, of nominating a Black woman to the Supreme Court, those are things that I think are likely to rally some in the base and may specifically show Black Americans that he's keeping that promise. But the decline in approval may come from other things as well. So I think there is room for some rebound here, but I'm not sure that the court nomination in and of itself is going to substantially improve his numbers. Certainly not overall, though maybe it would with particular constituencies, Blacks and also perhaps Democratic women.
Well, maybe in those, apparently, if you're talking about 57%, that's where he's suffering, is with the Black base. The Supreme Court stuff. I know a lot of your recent national polling on the Supreme Court have focused on big issues like the Roe v. Wade, that we all know a big change could be coming down the pike here by end of summer at the outside. Right. Above and beyond that, I believe you've told me that the stature of the court has been diminished in the eyes of those polled. So what did you find this time in the last couple of minutes we got here, Charles? Yeah,
the approval of the Supreme Court has come down over the last year and a half pretty sharply. In September of 2020, 66% approved of the job the court was doing. That poll was completed the week before Ruth Bader Ginsburg died. So it was before she left the court. But this past July, 60% approved. Then at the end of the summer, the court did a number of controversial things, and approval fell to 49 approved, 50 disapproved. In this latest poll, it hadn't budged much. It's 52 approved, 46 disapproved. And we have these very big cases coming up on abortion and also on gun rights. So there are at least two big decisions coming. And then just this week, the court accepted two cases on affirmative action in college admissions. It's not yet clear whether they'll hear that case this year or put it off till next fall, but that's another blockbuster case on the agenda and coming down the road, maybe by July, but maybe not until next year sometime.
Charles, any specific polling on Roe v. Wade you can share?
Yes, we see very consistently about 72% opposed to overturning Roe, about 28% that would strike it down. But the case that they're looking at is a Mississippi case that bans abortion after 15 weeks, and their opinions evenly divided. It's 49 in favor, 51 opposed. So a really even split on that one. And if you look at the 6-week abortion ban from Texas, there again, 72% are opposed to that. So what you see is people want to keep a right to an abortion, but are evenly split on restricting that to just 15 weeks, but then overwhelmingly opposed to a 6-week ban.
Pollster extraordinaire Charles Franklin, thank you so much, sir. More devils. We'll be right back.
Hey, son, how are you feeling?
I'm fine, Pops.
Thank you very much.
I can't explain it.
When your kid can't find the language, find the lyrics. Start a conversation at soundedouttogether.org. Brought to you by Ad Council and Pivotal Ventures.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have arrived in Philadelphia. Local time is 3:05 p.m. and the temperature is 67 degrees. At this time, you are now free to use your cellular devices.
You know that feeling when you get to turn your phone on after the plane lands? You can have that feeling every time you drive. Make sure your cell phone is stowed away whenever you are behind the wheel.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Treat yourself to some Wisco Home Goods natural lotions or sugar scrub in 2022. I'm Don, one of the owners of this family-owned Midwestern business in Madison, Wisconsin. Our natural hand soaps, lotions, and sugar scrubs offer you the luxury you deserve. Wisco Home Goods self-care products come in a variety of scents you're sure to love. So go on, add a little pampering to your daily routine. Order at wiscohomegoods.com. Natural, healthy, nourishing self-care and more at wiscohomegoods.com.
Plenty of people start something great in their 40s and 50s. Getting your retirement savings on track is no different. Go to aceyourretirement.org and in 3 minutes, you'll get personalized tips to help boost your retirement savings. That's aceyourretirement.org. A message from AARP and the Ad Council.
Hi, folks. This is Kirk Bankstead of the Minocqua Brewing Company, and I'm excited to announce our new beer, AOC IPA. This IPA pays homage to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a champion of the progressive movement. AOC IPA is now available in stores throughout Wisconsin. Check our website, MinocquaBrewingCompany.com, to see which stores in your area are carrying it.
Occupy didn't start on Wall Street. It started on our street, the Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the Friday edition. It's when we air the grievances around here, and yours could be part of this big show. Join us, 844-96-PARTY, 844-967-2789. Now, I want to thank my most recent guest, the fine one, Charles Franklin, Marquette University Law School pollster. And I always tease Charles, he oversamples Republicans. But the polling typically holds up. It typically holds up. Now, even he missed it on the Hillary Clinton poll. Everybody missed it on the Hillary Clinton poll. If you'll recall, here in the state of Wisconsin, Charles had Hillary up 6 or 7 points on Donald Trump. And in no small part, it was a shocker. It was like going to a funeral the night that Donald Trump was elected. Then the fact that they turned off lefty talk radio here in the state of Wisconsin, they turned off the Heartless Corporation that I used to broadcast on. They turned off the station the day that Donald Trump was elected. Something of a motivator for me. I've been in it for the platform ever since, and to defeat Donald Trump. So, feeling pretty good on a day like today. And there's a reason why. I take some upside. It's not even a grievance. I'm happy to report that the January 6th committee has subpoenaed all across the nation. And I first saw this reporting at CNN, but the January 6th committee has subpoenaed the fraudulent Trump electors. And that was the breaking news just a couple hours ago. And now we've got some local reporting on the issue here in the state of Wisconsin. I'm seeing if I can find CNN's original source material on this. I want to share it with you the way I learned it. Try to always, set the tone, give you the context. Here it is. Here was the original reporting that broke it to me. Ryan Nobles and others, including Zachary Cohen and Annie Grayer at the CNN. January 6th committee subpoenas individuals tied to fake electors. The January 6th Select Committee has issued 14 subpoenas for Republicans from 7 states, including Wisconsin. I throw that in there, who served on a bogus slate of Trump electors in 2020 and as part of the Trump campaign scheme to subvert the Electoral College. The GOP leaders from states served as chair and secretary. They had officious titles on the slates of fake electors designed to be alternatives should Republicans succeed in denying the certifications of actual electoral votes that were won by Joe Biden. The scheme didn't work, and then Vice President Mike Pence certified the election results on January 6th when the congressional session reconvened after being interrupted. Is that what it was? It was interrupted by a mob of pro-Trump rioters, seditionist conspirators, insurrectionists, domestic terrorists. Got a few more adjectives. Here's a quote. The Select Committee is seeking information about attempts in multiple states to overturn the results of the 2020 election, including, let's make a list, folks, the planning and coordination of efforts to send false slates of electors to the National Archives. Now, this statement coming from Rep. Benny Thompson, he chairs the committee. Thompson writes, we believe the individuals we have subpoenaed today have information about how the so-called alternative electors met and who is behind the scheme. Well, we all know who is behind the scheme. Rudy Giuliani. It's in the public knowledge, but, make them come in, put a hand on the Bible, and swear out some testimony. In the subpoena letters, the panel says it has in its possession these fake elector certificates from the National Archives. What they call that evidence. The committee also says it has documentation showing that these delegations sent bogus electors to Congress as a justification to delay or block the certification of the election. So these weren't a just in case, and specifically for Pence to consider while in his role as president of the Senate when he certified the 2020 presidential election. The panel received all 700 plus pages from the National Archives last week that were previously tied up in litigation with the Supreme Court. Donald Trump tried to block them all, executive privilege. That didn't work out. The committee subpoenaed the following chairpersons and secretary of each group, the so-called alternative electors. Let's name names. We got Nancy Cottle, Cottle, and Lorraine Pellegrino from Arizona. Cottle is listed on the Arizona Federation of Republican Women's website as being the group's vice president. Well, there's a David Schaefer and Sean Still from Georgia. Schaefer is the chair of the Georgia GOP and was a plaintiff in some of Trump's long shot lawsuits to overturn the election in Georgia. Still was the Georgia GOP finance chair and is now running for a Georgia Senate seat. That's the David Schaefer guy. Kelly Burden and Maya Rodriguez from Michigan. Burden was a national committee woman with the Republican National Committee and served as a Trump delegate in 2016. Rodriguez unsuccessfully ran for the Michigan House seat in 2020. See how involved they are in the Republican Party? It's hard to distance yourself when these are the names. Let's jump down to the bottom of the list alphabetically. Andrew Hitt and Kelly Rue from Wisconsin. Hitt is the former chairman of the Wisconsin GOP and a staffer for former Governor Scott Walker. He learned corruption right at the former wanker's knee. Rue is currently an alderperson for the city of De Pere. A couple more, Michael McDonald and James DeGraffin Reed of Nevada. And who else? Bill Bockenberg and Lisa Patton from Pennsylvania. And Jewel Powderall and Deborah Mastis of New Mexico. they're all, tied into the Republican Party. We do have some coverage from the local here in the state of Wisconsin. I'll save that for the next hour. Your calls could be next, though. 844-967-2789. Going to take Mark Waller's time. Mark from the SAC, welcome back. What do you got for us, buddy?
Yeah, just got to uncover all these rats and bring them up on charges that and if they use U.S. mail, like was said yesterday, mail fraud. I mean that you cast your net as wide as possible and drag them all in. I mean that if Scott Walker was tangentially involved in this, drag him in. I mean that.
Well, just because one of his former staffers that learned corruption from the best, just because is the Republican Party chair of the state of Wisconsin's involved and subpoenaed under the January 6th committee, there's no reason to think the wanker's involved, is there?
He might have said, well, go ahead and do it. I mean, that who knows? I mean, that if he gave tacit approval to this, that we have to find out. I mean, and if these guys were involved in this and they get convicted of felonies, you strip them of the right to vote. I mean, that they've, most of these people have taken an oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States and make them pay the price for their violation of that oath.
Hammer them, Mark. Hammer them, then hammer them again. Then have them hammer some rocks, do a little hard time. Come back. Hour 2 of the Devil's Advocates, the Friday edition, the grievances. They roll at 844-967-2789.
Did you say Spanky was in a lot of trouble?
Hi, this is Brad from Zero Res. If you need someone to help with your carpet cleaning, business or residence, please give us a call. We have the best system available and an amazing team of friendly technicians. Call us at 848-9000 or schedule online at zeroresmadison.com.
At Chad's Design Build, we care deeply about the quality of the services that we provide to our clients. An excellent remodeling experience requires communication, honesty, accuracy, and a detailed plan, all of which helps to create a satisfied client. And these commitments spell our name. To learn more about the Chad's remodeling experience, go to chadsdesignbuild.com. Building a better world, one remodeled home at a time, and celebrating 30 years of excellence.
Stream Progressive News and Talk 24/7, as well as download exclusive podcasts and interviews at devilradio927.com. That's devilradio927.com.
You are listening to WTTN 1580 AM Columbus, W224 EG Madison, always streaming on the Devil Radio app.
AP News. I'm Ed Donahue. A near tragedy in Pittsburgh is giving President Biden striking evidence to back his infrastructure law. The AP's Sagar Magani has the story.
The president was already due to tout the bill in Pittsburgh, but hours before he arrived, a 4-decade-old city bridge collapsed. After visiting the site, the president noted inspections had found it had been in bad shape, like too many other bridges.
Across the country, there are 45,000 bridges in poor condition. It's just simply unacceptable.
And mind-boggling that the nation's so far behind on infrastructure. The president says his bill will rebuild thousands of bridges. His return to the city where he launched his campaign was the first stop in a bid to promote his first year's achievements before the midterm elections, where slim Democratic majorities are in danger. Sagar Magani, Washington.
The U.S. message to Vladimir Putin.
We strongly encourage Russia to stand down.
Joint Chiefs of Staff Chair General Mark Milley says diplomacy is the preferred way to ease tensions over Ukraine. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin is watching the buildup of Russian forces near the Ukraine border.
We remain concerned about the range of options that he could pursue.
That includes action short of a full-scale invasion. Russia has said there's no plans to invade Ukraine. At the funeral of New York police officer Jason Rivera, his wife Dominique lashed out at the new Manhattan DA, who has instructed prosecutors not to pursue certain cases, including some allegations of resisting arrest.
The system continues to fail us. We are not safe anymore. Not even the members of the service.
Rivera and his partner were killed in an ambush last week. A turbulent week for markets ended with a late burst of buying. The Dow up 584 points. This is AP News.
Have you wanted to speak a new language but thought it'd be too difficult or take too much time? Then try Babbel. Whether you want to learn Spanish for future travel plans, French to connect with extended family, or maybe German to land a new job, Babbel works because it's built around real life. It teaches you everyday practical conversations that you'll actually use. All you need is 15 minutes a day, and you'll be on your way to confidently speaking a new language in just a few weeks. Babbel is designed by real language experts using a modern conversation-based technique that makes learning fun, engaging, and best of all, memorable. It starts by teaching you words and phrases. Then sentences gradually get more complex. Soon you're practicing short conversations about real-life topics. And with 14 languages to choose from and lesson topics like travel, business, relationships, and more, you'll be sure to learn what matters most to you. Babbel, language for life. Learn a new language with ease. Go to Babbel.com to try for free. That's Babbel.com. Babbel.com.
In time, you will know the true power of Devil Radio 92.7. It is your destiny.
January 23rd to 28th is Restaurant Week in Madison, and we recommend you try Salvatore's Tomato Pies at 10 North Livingston, Salvatore's in Sun Prairie at 121 East Main Street, Salvatore's in Monona at 5511 Monona Drive, and the newly reopened 912 East Johnson with an all-new menu. Dine in or carry out special 3-course meals by the Restaurant Week specials at salstomatopies.com. Tell them that Devil Radio sent you.
Wisconsin. You know that Drew Holiday and Brooke Lopez are champions on the court, but did you know they're also champions for our community?
Hey, Wisconsinites. Drew Holiday here. And Brooke Lopez here. I love being a champion. And today I'm asking you to be a champion citizen. Defend your right to vote and exercise your freedom to vote. It's more important now than ever because politicians are trying to restrict our freedom to vote. They're worried about our power, so they want to take it away. Don't let them do that. You've got to block that shot.
Paid for by the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign.
This is Rocker, and I'm sitting here on the patio at Salvatore's Tomato Pies, freezing my butt off. So I'm headed next door to the Dark Horse Art Bar for a Rocker Rye whiskey to warm me up. It's a high rye with just a touch of malted barley. It's yummy. Find Rocker Spirits at Festival Foods on East Wash and Woodman's grocery stores. You must be 21. Please drink responsibly. Devil Radio, your fix for progressive talk from Middleton to Monona, always streaming at darnwi.com.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM. I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. On Thursday, the Wisconsin Supreme Court announced a ruling that stated the contract signed between Republican state lawmakers and taxpayer-funded lawyers before any redistricting lawsuits were even filed were entered into legally. In a 4-3 decision, the state Supreme Court ruled the Wisconsin legislature could hire private attorneys to defend their position if they believe litigation may potentially occur. The 11th-ranked Wisconsin men's basketball team defeated the Nebraska Cornhuskers yesterday evening 73-65. The Badgers remain tied for first place in the Big Ten Conference. The Wisconsin women's basketball team also played against Nebraska yesterday evening, losing to the Huskers 77-44. Sunny skies with partial cloud coverage and winds up to 10 miles an hour today and a high of 16 degrees. Cold temperatures expected again overnight with light winds and an overnight low of -3 degrees. You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
Devil Radio programming is produced live in the Solidarity Realty Studios. Find them at solidarityrealty.com. Solidarity Realty. There is an alternative.
Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves and corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. 3, 2, 1. Now live from the Devil Radio Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning. Welcome to the Devil's Advocate Show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
Here is your host, Mike Crute.
Welcome back. Hour 2 of the Friday edition of the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. We're nearly there, folks. It's Friday. We'll make it. We'll make it. We air the grievances here, and you can be a part this hour at 844-967-2789. I literally woke up this morning, not to the news of the subpoenaed fraudulent electors. That was, later in the day. I woke up this morning to the news that Joe Biden was traveling to Pittsburgh. He was out there to promote the Build Back Better, trying to still, put a infrastructure deal together. A bridge had fallen in Pittsburgh overnight. Biden calls for a return of U.S. manufacturing and touted infrastructure during a Pittsburgh visit, at the bridge, if you will. We do have some of the sound. We'd like to share it with you, our fair audience. If you would, Evan, going to need your help. Joe Biden speaking from the site of a fallen bridge. I mean, you couldn't plan that. That's what happened if you don't invest in infrastructure. But, Republicans, they don't believe in keeping the bridges up. Here's Joe Biden. Cut 8, please.
It had been rated in poor condition for the past 10 years. What you all know, if you don't, you should know, there are another 3,300 bridges here in Pennsylvania, some of which are just as old and just as decrepit.
And the one in Pittsburgh just fell. And apparently a bus drove off that bridge, and apparently 10 people were injured. No deaths that I've seen reported yet, but Biden went to Pittsburgh, and he had these words to say. Our president, Joe Biden, cut 9, please.
But across the country, there are 45,000 bridges in poor condition. It's just simply unacceptable.
You'd think so. I remember when the bridge fell in Minneapolis. Haven't seen a lot of successful infrastructure weeks since then. Now, we did get these smaller, supposedly the roads and bridges infrastructure bill, the hard infrastructure bill, that did pass, sort of bipartisan, got a few Republicans on board. But here's more from the president. Cut number 10, I believe we're up to.
We've got to get it on with it. We got to move. The next time, we don't need headlines saying that someone was killed when the next bridge collapsed.
One more from Joe Biden in Pittsburgh. Cut 11, please.
We saw today when a bridge is in disrepair, it literally can threaten lives.
Threaten lives. President Biden today made the case for U.S. manufacturing as a way to rebuild the economy while on a visit in Pittsburgh. From day one, every action I've taken to rebuild the economy has been guided by one principle: make it American. Like we used to. No one knows that better than all the folks here in Pittsburgh, he said at Carnegie Mellon University. Biden went to Pittsburgh to deliver remarks on the administration's focus of strengthening supply chains, revitalizing American manufacturing, and creating good-paying union jobs, including through the bipartisan infrastructure law. But hours before he left the White House for the Keystone State, a bridge collapsed in Pittsburgh, and he had to stop to visit the site. I think we played this sound, but here are a few quotes. That to build a truly strong economy, we need a future that's made in America. That means using products, parts, materials built right here in the United States of America. It means bringing manufacturing back, jobs back, building supply chains here at home, not outsourcing abroad so we have better jobs and lower prices here. He said in his remarks, it means betting on American workers. He touted the infrastructure law, which he signed in November, and the federal investments it will make to repair roads and bridges in other areas, such as climate initiatives. Now just 74 days after signing that law, we're already making tangible differences for highways, ports, airports, rail, high-speed internet, clean air, and clean water. And during his visit to the site at the Fern Hollow Bridge that collapsed hours earlier, he met with local officials and emergency responders, saying the infrastructure bill is going to fix all of Pittsburgh's vast number of bridges. We've got to move. The next time we don't need headlines saying that someone was killed when the next bridge collapses. Let's talk about numbers for just a minute. The infrastructure bill will invest at least $1.6 billion in Pennsylvania bridges, including $327 million in fiscal year 2022. And that's for bridge repair in the state. Seems like a lot of money. $327 million for one state for one intended purpose, bridge repair. Here is a little bit more from the president. I never knew Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania had more bridges than any other city in the world. He called it unacceptable that there are 43,000 bridges nationwide in poor condition. Yeah, it's unacceptable. And there's more that could be done. More that could be done, especially on this issue of infrastructure, right? And I find it interesting, and I don't mean interesting in a good sort of way, but we know why the Build Back Better is not moving, why it's not advancing. They've talked about breaking apart the pieces. Hell, I see my progressive buddy Bernie Sanders saying, well, don't assume I'm a yes on everything. But I did see some, let's call it interesting polling. And this is polling driven by industry, but you got to assume there's certain parameters of polling that makes it somewhat universal. But here's what this poll tells us. In West Virginia, the state of West Virginia, that's where Joe Manchin serves as a U.S. Senator. NAW's poll, NAW is the pollster. Again, this was the industry poll. The poll found that 82% of West Virginia voters believe that the new social spending programs in Build Back Better should ensure that money goes only to low and middle income families. Manchin has taken issue with the fact that the bill expands the tax credit to families earning up to $400,000. But overall in the state, 72% of West Virginians, they don't want to advance the Build Back Better. I mean, I've wondered what the hell's wrong with Joe Manchin. Maybe it's the voters of West Virginia. I mean, this poverty-stricken state doesn't want infrastructure investment, doesn't want human infrastructure investment, doesn't want anything but the poorest of the poor to get any sort of a leg up, I guess. 72% of West Virginians oppose the Build Back Better currently, or at least they want it suspended. WTF, West Virginia. 844-967-2789. Going to the phones. The phones. Bill from Oconomowoc. Welcome, Bill. It's Friday, but my mouth still thinks it's Monday.
Well, my mouth is thinking Friday, but another story. But anyhow, on that Build Back Better, here's what's interesting. Foxy News today, I love the way you call it that. I'm going to adopt that name. Foxy News said, too little, too late. They claim that the bill is underperforming, or the allocation of money is underperforming, and the majority of Build Back Better infrastructure bill is going to wasteful projects. I can't believe they would step on it this fast and come out with that kind of saying, man, I know you were on there. I was fortunate enough to go on there with Sean Hannity many years ago and debate something. Now, it was on the phone. It wasn't the TVs. And what's amazing, when you present facts to those people, they hang up on you. They're done. They're finished. They can't, counteract. So now Foxy News says, oh, too late, Joe. Should have done it years ago. Hey, we asked you Republicans to do it years ago, and you said, nah, not important. Now you're saying...
Bill, do you recall under the Trump presidency, it was like every week was supposed to be infrastructure week? Do you remember that? They talked about it a hell of a lot. They talked, but they never produced results.
And what are they for? My question is, what are they? We know what they're against. We know that Biden's ratings are down for only one reason. Thanks to our Republican terrorist, I won't call them friends. Thanks to the Republican terrorists, the extremists, Mitch McConnell led the charge. We're going to make the country fail because we got to get in. It's our way or the highway, and they're doing it. It's actually working. His poll numbers are coming down, but here's the poll numbers. Maybe you've already announced. I apologize if you have. The Marquette poll, the latest poll, has Biden ahead of Trump by 10 points. Yep. Biden's overall performance is not near as bad as Trump's was overall. And Fox is doing everything to tear them to pieces. And thanks to you and all your people on your station are bringing the truth to light, and boy, do they run. Boy, do the rats run when you put the flashlight on them. Thanks again, and keep the good work up.
Hey, Bill.
Yeah?
Where were you when Charles Franklin from the Marquette University Law School poll was on the show like a half an hour ago, fella?
I wasn't on. I listen to you when I'm driving.
All right, man.
That's about the only time I can listen to you. Otherwise, I would have you on all the time. Just doesn't work out for what I do.
All right, Bill, keep your hands on the wheel, fella. Keep her on the roads. Keep driving. You know, you got like, another 43 minutes and then you can get out of the car because I'll be done and I'll hand it off to Earl. But up until then, well, we're going to take more of your grievances. 844-967-2789. Now, fortunately, at least reportedly, what I've seen in reporting regarding the Pittsburgh, it's not a tragic thing. And it's certainly not a shocker. I mean, how unexpected should it be? The bridge has been in poor condition for 10 years, like a lot of other bridges. They knew this. And what, their Foxy News is going to blame it on us? Blame it on Biden? Biden didn't fix it quick enough? That's crazy. As Sarah Godlewski, Wisconsin State Treasurer, she said that often during her campaign. That's crazy. Well, you could say that about Ron Johnson. You could say that about Foxy News. Crazy like a Foxy News? Come back. More Devil's Advocates. More of you on the phones as well. 844-967-2789.
I alone can fix it. Come on, you stupid horse. I got my last $10 on you.
Like build a rocket and watch it soar. Clean the oceans and make the world a better place. Oh, she can STEM.
Learn more at She Can STEM. A message brought to you by the Ad Council.
If a natural disaster comes knocking, how prepared is your family? You can't just close the door on earthquakes, floods, or hurricanes and hope they go away. That's why it's important to make a plan now. Ready.gov/plan has the tools and tips you need to prepare your family for an emergency. So if disaster shows up at your doorstep, you'll be ready. Visit ready.gov/plan and make a plan today. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
President Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election.
Collectively, Republicans got 1.661 million votes, 51,000 more votes than Trump got.
He exhausted his cases. He exhausted the court challenges.
All the Republicans voted for Trump the way they voted for the assembly candidates. He would have won.
It was not rigged. It was not stolen. Donald Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election. It's really clear.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org.
I think it's just vapor.
Vaping is safer than smoking, isn't it?
One vape pod has as much nicotine as one pack of cigarettes. Get your head out of the cloud. Talk to your kid about vaping. Visit talkaboutvaping.org. Brought to you by the American Lung Association and the Ad Council.
Spruce up your home with soy candles from Wisco Home Goods. I'm Don, one of the owners of this family-owned Midwestern business in Madison, Wisconsin. Our candles are 100% sustainable and come in a variety of unique blends and scents. Did you know our candle jars are also double old-fashioned glasses? That's right, buy a candle and you get a free cocktail glass. Check out our blog at wiscohomegoods.com/blog for more information. That's wiscohomegoods.com/blog.
You're listening to the radio show your mother warned you about, The Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show, playing a little Neil Young. Neil Young having a little Spotify war with Joe Rogan. Well, you're going to lose that one, Neil. They've deplatformed Neil Young from Spotify. He said, it's me or Joe Rogan. And Joe Rogan has done some really terrible things in regards to the COVID-19 pandemic and spreading false information. So I kind of dedicated that song to Joe Rogan, you know, the needle and the vaccine damage done, as they would tell it. The Friday edition, the airing of the grievances. Yours are always welcome here at 844-967-2789. Now, I wanted to get to the backyard the Wisconsin politics, or at least the effect of the new subpoenas on the two Wisconsin Republicans who acted as false electors, Molly Beck reports at the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. The Select Committee to investigate the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol is ordering two Wisconsin Republicans to testify about false paperwork, fraudulent paperwork, I'd call it, they submitted in 2020 claiming to be presidential electors, even though Democrat Joe Biden won the state. Former Republican Party of Wisconsin Chairman Andrew Hitt and Kelly Rue, the chairwoman of the 8th Congressional District GOP, well, they received subpoenas from the panel known as the January 6th Committee that was formed in June to uncover information about the violent and deadly riots in Washington early last year. The committee seeks to learn more, though, through witness testimony, text messages, phone calls, documents, and other evidence about how the attack occurred. Well, I think our fair audience knows what the January 6th Committee is by now. Let me jump into the letter to Mr. Hitt. The Select Committee seeks information from you on a narrow range of issues. We have sincere respect for your privacy, and we're not seeking information about your political views or your efforts in the 2020 presidential campaign more generally. Rather, we are seeking information about your role and participation in the purported slate of electors casting votes for Donald Trump, and to the extent relevant, your role in the events of January 6, 2021. That written by Committee Chairman Benny Thompson. Now, a little bit more here. Hitt and Rue were part of a group of Wisconsin Republicans who met in the Senate Capitol on December 14th to draft false electoral paperwork, while Wisconsin's real members of the Electoral College, all Democrats, gathered in the state capitol to deliver the state's 10 electoral votes to Biden. Hitt is an attorney. He lives in Appleton, but he's an attorney. That's the important part. You get it? He should know better. He should know, as an attorney, you can't commit fraud. A little bit more. Rue is a De Pere alderwoman. De Pere is a city in Wisconsin. Hitt said he would comply with the subpoena. Yeah, you better. He said he had followed legal advice at a meeting as an elector. Well, you're a lawyer. You do know better. You could take your own counsel, sir, but did not say who offered that advice. Andrew Hitt, attorney at law. Did you take advice, legal advice from Rudy Giuliani? You did, didn't you? That was your first mistake. Here is a statement from Hitt. I absolutely will cooperate with the committee's request to provide information. As I said in the past, the Wisconsin electors were simply following the guidance of Wisconsin legal counsel. Now, that's a small distinction to make, because there is another Wisconsin false elector that, voted for Trump or claimed that he was a duly elected elector for Trump, that blamed it on the Trump campaign, effectively blamed it on Rudy. But Andrew Hitt, attorney at law, claims it was Wisconsin legal counsel to preserve the ongoing Wisconsin legal strategy. Now, again, this is a quote from Hitt, and it's going to get very confusing in a moment. There was no intent, according to Hitt, beyond that, and I'm happy to participate in this process to clarify any confusion that may exist. Now, Bob Spindell, he's the Wisconsin Elections Commissioner, also that, is on this false electors list, has said Wisconsin Republicans were following the directives of the Trump campaign. Again, that's not Wisconsin legal counsel. A little bit more. The group signed official-looking documents stating Trump had won, even though the state Supreme Court, listen closely, folks, the Wisconsin State Supreme Court had ruled just an hour earlier that Biden was the victor. That's the highest court in the state of Wisconsin. So this claim that they were just trying to keep their legal channels, their options available. Well, an hour earlier, the highest court in the state of Wisconsin said, you have no valid legal cause here. And this attorney at law, the former chairman of the Republican Party of the state of Wisconsin, he signed off anyways. Just keep that in mind. The group signed official-looking documents stating Trump had won, even though the state Supreme Court, as mentioned, had ruled just an hour earlier that Biden was the victor. It was a close ruling. It was a 4-3. I mean, hell, effectively, Biden won the state of Wisconsin by one Supreme Court vote. But I read on. They sent the material to the U.S. Senate, the National Archives, and Wisconsin Secretary of State Doug LaFollette and a federal judge. Paul Farrow, the chairman of the state Republican Party, now that's the current chairman, portrayed the meeting of false electors as routine, just routine stuff, even though, according to the journalist here, it was exceedingly unusual. Yeah, that's probably closer to the truth, Paul. The would-be electors met an hour after the state Supreme Court ruled Biden had beaten Trump in Wisconsin. They mailed their false paperwork. Someone asked that question. I think it was Bill. Oh, yeah, they used the mail. No, Mark said that. They mailed their false paperwork to the National Archives 2 days later. Later, Trump filed a last-ditch appeal of the state Supreme Court decision to the U.S. Supreme Court. The nation's high court dismissed that appeal within weeks. No legal grounds here, folks. They knew better. The courts had already ruled. Here's one more statement. The Democrats that are now trying to fabricate a story from a simple procedure is nothing more than a desperate attempt to divert attention from their record as they face the electorate in 2022. That's what the current party chair is saying now. Come back. More devil's advocates.
I've seen the needle and the damage done, a little part of it in everyone, but every junkie's like a setting sun.
I'm suggesting that you leave before I have to get snoopy.
Hear history as it happens, only on Devil Radio 92.7 FM.
Here on Devil Radio, the happy hour is always the happiest hour of the day. If you want to end your day on a high note, join the happy hour at the all-new Dark Horse Art Bar, 756 East Washington Ave, right next to Salvatore's Tomato Pies. Happy hours now Tuesday through Saturday, 4 to 6 p.m. with drink and wine specials and $1 slices. And always free parking in our building. The Dark Horse Art Bar. Enjoy this unique, funky, cool space. Surround yourself with art with featured local, regional, and national artists. New shows each month.
President Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election.
Collectively, Republicans got 1.661 million votes, 51,000 more votes than Trump got.
He exhausted his cases. He exhausted the court challenges.
All the Republicans voted for Trump the way they voted for the assembly candidates. He would have won.
It was not rigged. It was not stolen. Donald Trump lost the election. Joe Biden won the election. It's really clear.
This message was paid for by the People for People Corporation. Donate online at p4ppc.org.
I am here with Patrick from Salvatore's Tomato Pies and also the all-new Dark Horse Art Bar, 756 East Washington. Patrick, congratulations on getting the new venue open.
Hey, thanks very much.
And how long has Sal's been there?
Well, Sal's has been there since, we opened about 3 weeks before the shutdown of the pandemic. So it's been a pandemic restaurant, so to speak. So we haven't really had an idea of what it's like to run it there, not in a pandemic.
And this new bar, I've seen photos. I'm looking forward to spending some time there, especially during the happy hour. First and foremost, when will the happy hour be?
So happy hour is Tuesday through Saturday from 4 to 6 p.m. And we're featuring buy one, get one free drinks. There's $1 Sal's tomato pie slices, which is probably the most significant thing about happy hour. It's a pretty good deal.
Well, the most significant thing about the Dark Horse, the art bar, is the art, of course. I've seen the art, and I note you've got not just local art, you've got regional artists, you've got national artists. Obviously, that is the theme of this venue.
Yep. Sam, my partner, used to own a company in town called Firecracker Studios, which was another gallery. He's a fantastic artist himself. He's the curator, so he's curating new shows every month. So we're featuring local, regional, and national artists, and in all theme shows, and it's pretty outstanding.
So the ambiance is very art centric. I've noted you've even got art on the bar.
Yes, a lot of our locals have come in and they've added their touches to it. So it's a pretty unique and fun space.
Well, come check it out. The brand new Dark Horse Art Bar. It's right there with Sal's at 756 East Washington Avenue. They've got the happy hour specials going on Tuesday through Saturday, 4 to 6 p.m. Find them at darkhorsemadison.com.
For Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM, I'm Luke Mathers with your headlines. On Thursday, the Wisconsin Public Service Commission deadlocked on a case that would determine the ability of third-party financing mechanisms that renewable energy advocates state could expand access to clean energy. The PSC disagreed on the monopoly power We Energies holds as the utility provider in southeastern Wisconsin and the ability of local governments to use third-party financing with other utility companies to install solar panels. Yesterday, the Madison Police Civilian Oversight Board voted unanimously to hire an outside firm to recruit candidates to interview for the city's first independent police monitor. The original person selected by the board withdrew from the position last month after revelations he had violated state licensing requirements and discriminated against a woman he had been having an affair with. You're listening to Devil Radio 92.7 FM and WTTN 1580 AM.
The Devil's Advocates. Sausage making never looked so good.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the 4 o'clock happy hour, the Friday edition. It rolls on. Your phone calls always appreciated here. 844-967-2789. Dick's been patient. Welcome, Dick. What do you got for us?
Well, my grievances are several.
I can give you like 2 or 3, man. Don't get greedy on me, Dick.
Everybody, it was always infrastructure week when Biden was, or the last guy was president. Every week was health care. Every week was this, that, and the other thing. They produced nothing. Every week was nothing under them. Under this guy, we got 6.9% growth this week, we find out. Unemployment at its all-time low. Okay. And you know what? When it comes to inflation, here's where I think this is. And they won't admit it, but I think that corporate does not want this guy being president because he wants them to pay their fair share. And I'm telling you, part of this inflation is nothing more than price gouging.
Well, certainly it's price gouging, Dick, but that's not anti-Biden. That's pro-greed, man. Corporations are in it for the money. They're in it for the bottom line.
Right. But what I'm saying is they do not want this guy reelected because he has also said what else? He wants these people taxed properly. And they're after his rear end, and you know it. It's just absolutely ridiculous. The guy has produced phenomenally the first year, way past my expectations, and yet we're going to put the beat down on him for what?
Okay, man, I'll spare you one more grievance, Dick. You got one more in you?
Let's see.
Come on, man. I'm not asking you to make up grievances on the spot. I thought you had them all lined up on a piece of paper or something.
No, I kind of did, but I'll tell you what, it just doesn't get sickening. Come on, Kurt, this is bullshit. I mean,
hey,
whoops.
844-967-2789. You are listening to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Don't do that to me. Here is an updating story, and we've got some breaking news out of the state of Wisconsin. Here's something to contemplate. Maybe fill up the phone lines. Republicans in the state of Wisconsin are proposing to disband Milwaukee public schools and just give everyone a voucher. I think we talked about this. Young lady from Minneapolis called in hour one. We talked about, why vouchers? Why here in the state of Wisconsin? Because Republicans are basically trying to undermine the public schools and give all of our public tax dollars to any old church school. Because Betsy DeVos Group, they pay a lot of money. The American Federation for Children sticks millions of dollars of lobbying dollars. You know what lobbying means? They write a check to a Republican lawmaker and they influence them. They lobby them by writing them a check. That's what lobbying means in many cases. But anyways, we'll come back to the proposition being put forth by Republicans in this state and to do away with the largest school district and the educational system for 75,000, Milwaukee kids. Back to the fake Trump electors. There has been political analysis already dropping on this. The 14 subpoenas issued, 7 states, And those that were kind of listed as sort of the cheap, fake, fraudulent electors, well, they have been subpoenaed and they absolutely face criminal liability, according to early analysis from Dan Goldman. Now, who's Daniel Goldman? Well, he was the part of the impeachment team the first time through for the the Trump impeachment. Let me read. 14 fake Trump electors who were subpoenaed Friday as part of the House January 6 probe are facing absolute criminal liability, according to one former federal prosecutor. Daniel Goldman, who served as lead counsel for the House during the former President Donald Trump's first impeachment trial, thought I had that right, said a House Select Committee decision to subpoena the fake electors is unquestionably another significant step in their investigation. You think all these small fish are going to turn on the big fish? I think they might. Here is the quote from Goldman on MSNBC. This was part of a broader conspiracy orchestrated by Rudy Giuliani that involved individuals with the Trump campaign and with the Republican state parties in these battleground states. And it's just getting worse and worse the more we learn about it. Host Nicole Wallace responded by suggesting that Trump and not Giuliani bears ultimate responsibility for the fake elector scheme. Donald Trump is the through line, Wallace said. The whole thing seems top-down driven. There's no way that 7 random states that Trump lost bigly, if you will, come up with the let's fake it. Goldman agreed. When I say Rudy Giuliani was orchestrating it, I don't know who came up with the idea, but we all know Giuliani was at the hub of it. Whose idea it was, we still don't know, but you're right. There's no question that regardless of whether it was his idea or not, and we can be sure it was not, Donald Trump adopted this and ran with this and pressed it publicly, privately, on recordings in every way, shape, or form. So to the extent that there is a conspiracy to overturn the election through the use of false electors, to the extent that there is such an illegal conspiracy to defraud the United States, are you listening, Andrew Hitt? The evidence indicates thus far that Donald Trump was involved in that conspiracy. And asked whether the fake electors themselves could face criminal liability, Goldman responded, absolutely. A little bit more. One more quote. Then back to the phones at 844-967-2789. Where's the quote? Jumping around on me, this damn phone. I guess I don't have the quote. Just callers. 844-967-2789. CJ from Beaver Dam, welcome. What do you got for us?
Michael.
Yes, sir.
This is going to give you a little bit of a chuckle, but you have a little statement in one of your ads that says "radio for naughty women everywhere."
Oh yeah.
You need to place Julie's little "I'm a naughty little girl" in front of that.
I'm sorry. Who are we? We're holding Matt Gaetz accountable. I'm sorry. I didn't quite hear what you said there.
You put Julie's snippet from Minnesota.
Oh.
In front of that.
You leave the promoting to me, CJ. You I'm not sure if you're dirty minded or what precisely.
Hilarious.
Come on, man.
Perk up.
Let's keep it to the political for now. Any grievances this Friday afternoon, sir?
That they're not getting prosecuted fast enough.
It's happening pretty fast. I got to tell
you,
CJ,
if you go rob a bank,
yeah,
you're in jail the next day. But for some reason, this is being slow-toed, and I can only imagine that it's being slow-toed because they want to have all their ducks in a row and put them in for the maximum sentence.
Well, if we believe Merrick Garland, and I appreciate you, CJ, sort of. I don't know what that first crack was all about, but if we believe Merrick Garland, they're going to follow the evidence wherever it goes, and it's going to be slow and methodical, effectively. Now, the Mueller investigation, if we recall back, it took more than a year. It did. I mean, the legal justice system does move slowly. And last year, man, it was agonizing. It was agonizing. It's been more than a year, right? But this year, between the January 6th committee and the other various investigations, whether it's Letitia James in New York looking at the fraudulent taxes, the Fulton County DA has impaneled a special prosecutor And of course, the breaking news today, the January 6th committee has subpoenaed 14 false Trump electors, including 2 from our backyard right here in the great state of Wisconsin. Kelly Rue, the chairwoman of the 8th Congressional District GOP, and Andrew Hitt, who's an attorney by trade and should have known better. And an hour after the Wisconsin Supreme Court said effectively, Joe Biden's the president, you're out of good and bad lawsuits, these false electors signed off here in the state of Wisconsin. I hope there is a criminal prosecution. I do. I think they're deserving of it. Now, are people really going to serve hard time? No. No, probably not. These are white collar crimes. These are probably, relatively speaking, upstanding citizens. They probably don't have long criminal records. They'd probably still be eligible to, be a recipient of the Ron Johnson Trust, because you can only have one felony. But the second unrelated felony for the Johnson children, they, lose access to the trust and the grandiose they're contained. But these Trump false electors, while there might be multiple felonies charged, I suspect they'd be related felonies. So they'd still be eligible. 844-967-2789. Going back to the phones and the Friday grievances. Here's a new name. Jill from New Berlin. Welcome, Jill. What do you got for us?
Hi. Well, I have a grievance, but I also wanted to agree with your previous caller. I think these things should be speeded up because they seem to be fairly cut and dry in terms of evidence, available evidence.
Well, they mailed in the evidence, right, Jill? It's pretty bad. If you robbed a bank and then you mailed the receipts to the cops, it seems like they should be able to prosecute you pretty effectively with a little alacrity. But yeah, I agree. It feels like it's taken too long, but it does feel like the wheels of justice are starting to spin faster.
Well, I hope you're right. It's entertaining to watch all these rats on a sinking ship go after each other for the top of the pile. But my only concern is that they'll go for the king rats and leave the Wisconsin rats alone. So in other words, they'll go after Trump and Giuliani and then, tire out by the time it comes to prosecuting these guys at the state level. So,
Joe, my only frustration to date, and I like the Attorney General, I like Josh Call, but Josh Call, the Attorney General, and Joe, appreciate your call. Thanks for listening. Probably on AM 540, but who knows? Could be 101 FM, the Shaw. But the Attorney General of the state of Wisconsin, Josh Call, could be seeking prosecution of these false electors. And we know the Wisconsin Elections Commission has received a complaint on this very topic. Well, that's the supposed bipartisan board, right? I like Mark Thompson. I like Ann Jacobs. I think, even Republican Dean Knudsen shown some integrity of late. But that board's not going to bring any prosecutions. They don't have an investigatory or maybe they have an investigatory role, but they have no prosecutorial role. So it's got to come from the prosecutors. And the Milwaukee County District Attorney or his assistant DA told the Attorney General's office, hey, we need your help here. So the January 6th committee also is an investigatory body, but doesn't have any prosecutorial ability. They can't level charges. They can refer for charges, but the charges have to come from the Department of Justice or the state Department of Justice, the Wisconsin Department of Justice. And if they only go after the big fish on a federal level, Jill, well, I'd be pretty okay with that. If they turn Andrew Hitt on Donald Trump, if that's how we get the really big fish, I could live with that. But otherwise, let's prosecute all their asses. 844-967-2789. Our pal Jeannie from Eau Claire. Jeannie, welcome back. What do you got for us?
Great show as usual, sir.
Well, thank you. I try.
Well, these guys, this is great. This is great news. But then, they're going to be starting a lot of fires. The Republicans are like shutting down the school district in Milwaukee to take the press's eyes off what the heck they're doing and the fraudulent behavior that they're going to be accountable for. And I sure hope they have a full-fledged investigation of what goes on in Wisconsin. And we can all call. We got phones, or you can send messages and ask our United States Attorney General to help us in this state to get to the bottom of what's been pulled on the people in our state, because it's so evident and it's so intertwined, with all of the things that have gone on in our state and the crap that the Republicans are pulling, spending taxpayer money on a fraudulent investigation. Even they got to get somewhere. They're going to get their hands slapped for all the stuff that they pulled on the state of Wisconsin, because this is just ridiculous.
Jeannie, I have no doubt, and I hope it's worse than a little slap on the wrist. And you talk about the false electors, the fraudulent electors. Well, hell, we got an active investigation going on right now. I'm sure Gableman will get to the bottom of it. So I just said that. See if you shoot coffee out of your nose. Come back. One last segment of the Devils. Your final grievances of the day. 844-967-2789.
The COVID-19 vaccine.
Do we really know about the long-term?
Did you read that thing on the internet about that?
There's a lot of talk about COVID-19 vaccines. Talk to your doctor or healthcare provider to make the decision that's right for you. Visit getvaccineanswers.org for more. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
You're never completely ready to adopt a teen.
For late nights writing English papers.
Or your teen's music taste.
For dinners where they talk more on their phone than with you.
For the first time, they call you mom.
You're never completely ready to adopt a teen, and you can't imagine the reward.
To learn more about adopting a teen, visit adoptuskids.org.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Treat yourself to some Wisco Home Goods natural lotions or sugar scrub in 2022. I'm Don, one of the owners of this family-owned Midwestern business in Madison, Wisconsin. Our natural hand soaps, lotions, and sugar scrubs offer you the luxury you deserve. Wisco Home Goods self-care products come in a variety of scents you're sure to love. So go on, add a little pampering to your daily routine. Order at wiscohomegoods.com. Natural, healthy, nourishing self-care and more at wiscohomegoods.com.
Here's today's STEM tip. Make your selfies look even better with science. Take your pics at golden hour right before the sun sets. The wavelengths made by the atmosphere create a perfect golden light for that beautiful face of yours. Learn more at Chic and STEM. A message from the Ad Council.
Hi there, I'm Kirk Bankstad and I own the Monaco Brewing Company. And I also have a super PAC. We make good trouble in the North Woods of Wisconsin. You can support our efforts at the MonacoBrewingCompany.com and buy our woke gear like t-shirts, hoodies, and trucker hats. Enter the code RADIO and get 10% off on your next purchase. A portion of all sales support the Monaco Brewing Company Super PAC, which is dark money meant for good. That's the MonacoBrewingCompany.com.
The Devil's Advocates. So relevant, they have 1 foot in tomorrow.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Little Neil Young sub theme. He's feuding with Spotify. Well, anyways, he's going to lose. Spotify is not a music platform, and they paid Joe Rogan $100 million to misinform the populace for fun and profit. Hell, Republicans, they're also doing that. That's the saddest part. I'm going to take more of your grievances at 844-967-2789. But to my opinion, Republicans are killing their own sheeple, their own constituents. And I mean, literally, people are dying from their bad medical advice, but they're doing so for profit. They're fundraising on people's anti-vaxxer notions. They're fundraising on this freedom from tyranny and Fauci. So they're literally making money on killing their constituents. And the vast majority of them, I suspect, know better, probably have been vaccinated, possibly boosted. Hell, if Trump has been, I'd say the vast majority of Republicans have been. So they're killing people for fun and profit. So, if I make that allegation, at least I back it up. 844-967-2789. Wisco Paul, always a crowd favorite. Welcome back, Wisco.
Yeah, thank you, Jeannie, first of all, and happy Friday to you, Mike.
Thank you.
It's also confusing. Let me get this straight. The GOP set up how elections are run in this state.
Yep.
Who are now investigating the election, but they try to overturn it.
Well, it's because they didn't like the outcome. They also set up the electoral rules in 2016, but Donald Trump won the election in 2016. Did you hear any of them challenging the outcome or absentee ballots? There were 67,000 absentee ballots for Donald Trump in 2016. His margin of victory over Hillary Clinton was less than 21,000 votes. How do we know there wasn't rampant fraud in the absentee ballots when Trump won? See, it's a one-way street, Paul. It's only problematic if we lose. You know that. You know this isn't about the real whatever. This is about trying to take power.
The good old GOP, I tell you, they aren't right about anything. I mean, it's just amazing anymore. Jeannie has it right. But I'm going to move on because this is very confusing. You set up all the elections for Ron, then you investigate the elections, but it turns out you tried to overturn it. Okay.
Well, they proved there's voter fraud, Paul. You just didn't know the election fraud they meant were the false slate of electors that, Republican party chairs in the state of Wisconsin that signed off on a fraudulent document and then mailed it off to the National Archives at the apparently legal advice of Rudy Giuliani.
It's just an amazing thing. I'm going to run to a grievance because this is just insane. My grievance is against Senator Johnson, not my senator, by the way, who voted against the infrastructure bill. I'm never going to forgive him for that, by the way. Couldn't we at least, Ron, fix up Walker's mess with the infrastructure in this state? Tony's tried, but you could have helped it along, but you refused to do it. You refused to put people to work, put money back into the economy. You're a loser, I hope. Thank you very much, Crudy.
Well, he's certainly a loser, Paul. That part's not a hope and aspirational thing. Appreciate the call, man. Hope you have a great weekend. Be like Paul. Call us. There's still time for your calls at 844-967-2789. Here is a stunning headline from the great state of Wisconsin. This one to end the show. Republican lawmakers plan legislation to break up Milwaukee public schools and expand vouchers to all students. That's the headline Molly Beck reports. Republican lawmakers plan to propose a sweeping package of legislation to overhaul K-12 in Wisconsin that would break up the state's largest school district within 2 years. Did you catch that? 2 years. And expand private school vouchers to every student, regardless of family income. The proposal is part of a package that expands taxpayer-funded alternatives to public schools. We got an uncapped mandate now, including increasing the number of charter schools and giving parents money to pay for additional learning opportunities outside of normal school day, including college courses. Yeah, if you're expanding actual opportunities, I'm not really against that. But when you're breaking the school district and saying send your kids to private school at taxpayer dollars, I got a big issue with that. 844-967-2789. Here's a quick quote. Alberta Darling. If only my pal Dominic ever had the courage to run for state senate, he lives in that district. Here's her quote. These bills are in response to a number of issues parents and children are seeing as COVID-19 and failed school leadership are eliminating educational opportunities in our schools. The schools are fine in River Hills, Alberta Darling. You're talking about breaking up somebody else's school district. Our package of bills promotes school performance transparency and accountability, as well as reasserts parental choice. There it is, choice schools and rights. But what they never actually do, Alberta Darling, is hold choice schools accountable to any measures of success. If we're paying extra, shouldn't we get a better performance? Not an arguably equal performance at best. You get to pick and choose your students. You don't have to take kids with IEPs, which is 20% of the kids in the school district that Republicans now want to break up. So they're going to break up a school district where 20% of 75,000 students have an IEP. And you're going to what? Give them the option to go to private schools that don't have to service children with IEPs. What could possibly go wrong here? A couple of quick grievances. John from Madison, you're next. Welcome, John.
Hey, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Just the whole Republican COVID response is my beef today. When it was just the blue states, Jared thought it was cool just to ignore it. And then after the election, they wanted the misery index to just be as far right as possible, right? Peg that meter hard right. And it backfired because they're losing 2,000 people a day. And Trump even had to come out and say, you know what, you probably should get your shots and a booster. And then it backfired. They've created this monster and it's going to eat them up. And maybe that's okay. It's a lesson they needed to learn because you don't mess with science. These are the same that don't believe in climate change, right? Thanks, guys. Have a good weekend.
John, appreciate your call. And here's the one thing I take some consolation in. During the pandemic last year, we had a pandemic primary, right? But it was also the general election for Wisconsin Supreme Court. And a year prior, we had seen Hagedorn win a spot on the court, that supposed swing voter Hagedorn. We saw him beat Lisa Neubauer by 5,600 votes. And then the Wisconsin Supreme Court said, you got to go vote in person in a pandemic. And who was his name? The former Supreme Court Justice, the Walker appointee. Well, he was soundly trounced by Joe Karofsky, 163,000 votes, in no small part because of how Republicans responded. Thank you to my fine guest, Charles Franklin. MPS broken up by Republicans. I bet you Earl talks about it. Stick around for his fine show. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Hi, this is Brad from Zero Res.